The crimson trail of blood drops in the white snow led Warren Ingram straight to her crumpled form beneath the twisted cottonwood. Her dark hair splayed across the frozen ground like ink spilled on paper, and he knew before he even dismounted that whoever had done this to her would answer for it with their life. December 1867 had brought an unusual cold snap to Coloma, California, transforming the gold country foothills into a landscape of frost and ice. Warren had been riding back from delivering supplies to his claim when he spotted the tracks, then the struggle marks, then the blood. His horse nickered nervously as he swung down, boots crunching through the crusted snow. The woman was young, maybe 20 or 21, wearing only a thin cotton dress that was torn at the shoulder. Her face was swollen on one side, lips split and bleeding. Dark bruises mottled her exposed arms. She was conscious but barely, her breath coming in shallow gasps that sent white puffs into the frigid air. "Easy now," Warren said, kneeling beside her. He was 26, tall and lean from years of hard work, with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes the color of creek water. "I have got you. You are safe." Her eyes fluttered open, glazed with pain and fear. They were hazel, he noticed, flecked with gold. "Please," she whispered through split lips, "please do not take me back. I am not taking you anywhere except somewhere warm." He shrugged out of his heavy coat and wrapped it around her trembling form. When he lifted her, she cried out softly, and he felt rage kindle in his chest at the extent of her injuries. "Who did this to you, my father?" The words were barely audible. "He found out about Daniel, said I shamed him." Warren's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. He had seen plenty of violence in his years, had fought in the war that still haunted his dreams, but there was something about a man beating his own daughter that made his blood run cold with fury. "What is your name?" "Lily. Lily Owens." "Well, Miss Owens, my name is Warren Ingram, and I give you my word that your father will answer to me for this. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe and warm before you freeze to death." His cabin was only a mile away, but it felt like 10 with Lily shivering against his chest as he rode. She drifted in and out of consciousness, mumbling words he could not quite make out. The temperature was dropping as afternoon faded toward evening, and he pushed his horse as fast as he dared on the icy trail. The cabin was small but well built, with a stone fireplace and solid walls that kept out the worst of the weather. Warren kicked the door open and carried Lily inside, laying her gently on his bed. The fire had burned down to embers, and he worked quickly to build it back up, feeding and kindling until flames caught and spread. "I need to check your injuries," he said, turning back to her. "I will not hurt you, but I need to see how bad it is." Lily nodded weakly. Her teeth were chattering so hard she could barely speak. Warren heated water and found clean cloths, then carefully examined her injuries. Besides the obvious damage to her face, she had bruises on her ribs, arms, and back. Her hands were cut from where she must have tried to shield herself. Worst of all were her feet, bare and already showing signs of frostbite. He worked methodically, cleaning wounds, applying salve, wrapping her feet in warm cloths. She bore it all with remarkable stoicism, only gasping when he touched particularly tender spots. As he worked, she began to talk, her voice gaining strength as warmth seeped back into her body. Her father, Marcus Owens, was a farmer with land south of Coloma. A hard man made harder by the death of her mother 3 years prior. Lily was his only child, and he had expected her to keep house and obey without question. But she had fallen in love with Daniel Fletcher, a young man who worked at the sawmill. When her father found them together, found out they had been meeting in secret for months, his rage had been terrible. "He said I was a whore," Lily whispered, staring at the rough-hewn ceiling beams. Said no daughter of his would disgrace the family name. He started hitting me and I ran. I thought I could make it to town to Daniel, but he caught me in the snow. He hit me with his belt, with his fists. I thought he was going to kill me." Her voice broke. "Then he just left me there, told me if I came back he would finish what he started." Warren felt something twist in his chest. "This Daniel, does he know what happened?" "No, I was supposed to meet him tomorrow. We were going to run away together, go to Sacramento and get married." A tear slid down her bruised cheek. "Now he will think I changed my mind." "We will get word to him," Warren said firmly, "but not until you are stronger. Right now you need rest and healing." Over the next 3 days, Warren tended to Lily with a gentleness that surprised them both. He made her soup from venison and vegetables, changed her bandages, kept the fire burning high. He slept on the floor wrapped in blankets, giving her the bed. Gradually, color returned to her face, and she could move without wincing at every breath. They talked during those long hours, sharing stories of their lives. Warren told her about growing up in Missouri, about losing his family to cholera, about fighting in the war and coming west to start over, about the loneliness of his life in the gold country, the hard work and harder winters, the dream of striking it rich that kept him going. Lily spoke of happier times before her mother's death, of learning to read from traveling preachers, of her love for the wild country around Coloma. She spoke of Daniel with obvious affection, describing his kindness, his dreams of building a life together. Warren listened and tried to ignore the small, unwelcome feeling that stirred in him whenever she mentioned the other man's name. On the 4th day, a knock came at the door. Warren answered it to find a young man with sandy hair and worried eyes. "I am looking for Warren Ingram," he said. "They told me in town he might have seen my girl, Lily Owens. She is missing and her father says he does not know where she is, but I think something bad happened." "You must be Daniel." Warren stepped back. "Come in. She is here." The reunion was emotional. Daniel rushed to Lily's side, gathering her carefully into his arms while she cried against his shoulder. Warren turned away, ostensibly to give them privacy, but also because watching them together created an ache in his chest he did not want to examine too closely. "Who did this?" Daniel demanded, his voice shaking with anger as he took in her healing injuries. "Was it your father?" "Yes." Lily's voice was steady now. "He left me in the snow to die. Warren found me." Daniel turned to Warren, his young face fierce with gratitude and rage. "Thank you for saving her. I owe you everything, and Marcus Owens owes me answers." "He owes all of us more than that," Warren said quietly. "A man who would do this to his own daughter is not a man at all." They made plans. Daniel would take Lily to the home of a widow woman in Coloma, Mrs. Patterson, who could care for her while she finished recovering. Daniel and Warren would go together to confront Marcus Owens. It was decided that 3 days hence, when Lily was stronger, they would make the move. But that night, after Daniel had left and Lily was asleep, Warren lay awake staring at the ceiling. He told himself it was right that she would go with Daniel, that they loved each other and deserved happiness together. He told himself the strange, hollow feeling in his chest was simply because he had grown accustomed to her presence, to having someone to talk to in the long winter evenings. He told himself a lot of things, but none of them felt quite true. The next morning, Lily was up before him, moving carefully around the cabin, making coffee over the fire. "You do not need to do that," Warren said, rising from his makeshift bed on the floor. "You should rest." "I have been resting for days," she replied. "I need to feel useful. Besides, you have done so much for me. It is the least I can do." They fell into an easy routine that day. Warren mended harness while Lily darned socks. They talked about everything and nothing. their conversation flowing like water over stones. Warren found himself watching her when she was not looking, noticing the way lamplight caught in her dark hair, the small smile that played at the corners of her mouth when he said something amusing. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said suddenly, breaking a comfortable silence. "Of course. Why did you never marry? A man like you with your own land, your own home. You must have had offers." Warren was quiet for a long moment, considering. "I suppose I never found the right person. And after the war I was not fit company for anyone. Too many ghosts." He met her eyes. "What about you and Daniel? How did you meet?" Her face softened. "At a church social last spring. He was kind to me when my father was being difficult. We started talking, and one thing led to another. He makes me laugh, makes me feel like there could be more to life than just surviving." Warren nodded, pushing down that uncomfortable feeling again. "He seems like a good man. You deserve someone who treats you well." "You are a good man too, Warren." Lily's voice was soft. "I hope you know that. What you did for me, taking me in, caring for me when you had no obligation. That is the mark of real goodness." Their eyes held for a moment too long, and Warren looked away first, his heart beating strangely hard. This was dangerous territory, and he knew it. She was spoken for, in love with another man, and he had no right to feel what he was starting to feel. That night, a storm rolled in. Snow fell thick and fast, wind howling around the cabin's walls. Warren built up the fire and checked the shutters, securing everything against the weather. "Looks like Daniel will not be able to come tomorrow," he said. "The pass will be impassable until this clears." Lily stood at the window, watching snow swirl in the darkness. "I feel trapped," she said quietly. "Trapped by my father, trapped by this storm, trapped by my own weakness." "You are not weak." Warren came to stand beside her. "You survived something that would have killed a lesser person. You are one of the strongest people I have ever met." She turned to look at him, and in the firelight her eyes were luminous. "I do not feel strong. I feel confused. Everything has changed so quickly. A week ago my life was simple, horrible in some ways, but simple. Now everything is different, and I do not know which way is up." "You have Daniel," Warren reminded her gently, reminding himself at the same time. "He loves you. You can build a life together away from your father. I know." But her voice was uncertain, and she did not look away from Warren's face. "Warren, I need to tell you something." His heart hammered. "What is it?" "These days here with you, they have been some of the best of my life. You have been so kind, so patient. You listen when I talk, and you make me feel safe in a way I have never felt before. I am grateful for Daniel's love, truly I am, but being here with you feels different somehow. It feels right in a way that scares me." Warren's breath caught. Every instinct told him to step back, to remind her of her commitment, to protect them both from this dangerous moment. But instead he heard himself say, "I know. I feel it too." The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Lily's eyes widened, and he saw his own conflict mirrored in her face. "What do we do?" she whispered. "I do not know." Warren ran a hand through his hair, torn between honor and desire. "You love Daniel. You made plans with him. I will not be the man who comes between that." "But what if I am not sure anymore?" Lily's voice was anguished. "What if these feelings mean something? I care about Daniel, I do, but what I feel when I am with you is different, stronger." "Is that wrong?" Warren wanted to reach for her so badly his hands ached with it. Instead, he stepped back. "The storm has us trapped together, and you have been through something terrible. You are not thinking clearly. When Daniel comes, when you see him again, these feelings will make sense. You will remember what you have with him. And if I do not," her eyes searched his face, "what then?" "Then we will face that when it comes." His voice was rough. "But not now, not like this. You need to be sure, Lily. Really sure. Because if you choose me over him, there is no going back. Your father will not forgive you for running away with Daniel. He certainly will not forgive you for choosing a different man entirely, and Daniel will be hurt. These are real consequences. Lily nodded slowly, tears bright in her eyes. You are right. I know you are right. I just wish my heart would listen to my head. They spent the rest of the evening in careful distance, both aware of the tension between them, both trying to honor what was right even as they fought against what they felt. Warren lay awake long into the night, listening to the storm rage outside and the quieter storm raging in his own chest. The snow continued for 2 more days. 2 more days of forced intimacy, of long conversations and shared silences, of growing awareness and careful restraint. Warren watched Lily blossom as her injuries healed, saw her natural spirit emerge from beneath the bruises and fear. She was funny and clever, with a sharp mind and a generous heart. She challenged him in their discussions, made him think about things he had long taken for granted. And God help him, he was falling in love with her. On the 3rd morning, the storm finally broke. Brilliant sunshine sparkled on fresh snow, turning the world into a blinding white expanse. Warren knew Daniel would come as soon as the trail was passable, probably that very day. It was time to make decisions. Lily, he said over breakfast, we need to talk. She set down her coffee cup, her face serious. I know, I have been thinking about nothing else. Have you come to any conclusions? I have. She took a deep breath. I need to see Daniel. I need to talk to him face to face and be honest with him. He deserves that much. But Warren, I also need you to know that what I feel for you is real. It is not confusion or gratitude or proximity. In these days together, I have seen who you truly are, and you are the kind of man I did not know existed. You are patient and kind and strong, not just in body but in character. And I find myself wanting a future with you in a way that takes my breath away. Warren's heart soared and sank simultaneously. What about Daniel? I care for Daniel. I truly do. But what I feel for you is different, deeper. I think I knew the difference the moment you looked at me in the snow and promised me I was safe. I felt it in every gentle touch as you tended my wounds, in every conversation we have shared. Daniel made me feel like I could escape my father. You make me feel like I could become someone entirely new. Before Warren could respond, the sound of hoofbeats approached. They both turned to the window to see Daniel riding up, his horse laboring through the deep snow. The moment of truth had arrived. Warren opened the door and Daniel rushed in, his face bright with relief at seeing Lily up and moving. Thank God, he said, going to her. I have been worried sick. The storm was too fierce to travel, but I wanted to come so badly. I am fine, Lily said, but Warren heard the tension in her voice. Daniel, we need to talk. Something in her tone made Daniel's smile falter. He looked between Lily and Warren, and understanding began to dawn in his eyes. What is going on? Lily took Daniel's hands in hers, her eyes swimming with tears. You have been nothing but good to me. You were kind when no one else was, and you offered me a way out when I desperately needed one. I will always be grateful for that, and I will always care about you. But Daniel's voice was tight. But I do not love you the way you deserve to be loved. I thought I did, or I thought it would be enough, but these past days have shown me the difference. I am so sorry, Daniel. You deserve someone who loves you completely, without reservation, and I am not that person. Daniel's face went through a series of emotions, pain and anger and resignation. He looked at Warren. It is you, is it not? You took her in, and now you are taking her from me. No, Warren said firmly. I have not taken anything. If Lily chooses to stay with me, it will be her choice entirely. But I will not lie to you. I have feelings for her, yes, deep feelings. But I told her she needed to see you, to be honest with you, because you deserve that respect. Respect. Daniel's laugh was bitter. You call this respect? I have loved her for months, planned a life with her, and you sweep in and take her away in a matter of days. I know it seems that way, Lily said, her voice breaking. I know this hurts and I am so sorry for that, but would you really want me to marry you knowing my heart was elsewhere? Would that be fair to either of us? Daniel was quiet for a long time, struggling visibly with his emotions. Finally, he said, No, it would not be fair, but that does not make this hurt any less. He looked at Lily with eyes full of pain. I hope he makes you happy. I hope he is worth what you are giving up. What am I giving up? Lily asked softly. Everything. Your reputation, any chance of reconciliation with your father, the life we planned. For what? A man you barely know. Daniel shook his head. I hope you are right about him, Lily. Because if you are wrong, you will have nothing left. With that, he turned and walked out, and they heard him ride away through the snow. Lily stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. Warren went to her and wrapped his arms around her, and she clung to him like a lifeline. Did I just make a terrible mistake? She whispered against his chest. I do not know, Warren said honestly, but we will face whatever comes together. That is all I can promise you. 2 days later, they rode together to confront Marcus Owens. Warren had wanted to go alone, but Lily insisted on being there, on facing her father and claiming her freedom. Warren agreed reluctantly, on the condition that she stay behind him and let him do most of the talking. The Owens farm was a ramshackle collection of buildings set in a clearing surrounded by pine trees. Chickens scratched in the dirty snow, and a thin dog barked at their approach. Marcus Owens emerged from the barn, a thick-set man with graying hair and cold eyes. When he saw Lily, those eyes went even colder. So you lived, he said flatly. Pity. Warren dismounted, rage burning in his veins. You left your daughter to die in the snow. You beat her half to death and abandoned her like an animal. She is my daughter. What I do with her is my business. Marcus spat in the snow. She shamed this family, carrying on with that mill worker. She got what she deserved. No one deserves what you did to her. Warren's voice was dangerously quiet. And she is not your daughter anymore. She is choosing to leave to make her own life, and you are going to let her. Marcus laughed, a harsh sound. Or what? You will fight me. You think you can come here and tell me what to do on my own land. I am telling you that if you ever touch her again, if you ever come near her again, you will answer to me. And I promise you, that is a reckoning you do not want. Warren's hand rested on the pistol at his hip, not threatening, just making his position clear. Warren Ingram, Marcus said, recognition dawning. I heard of you. War hero, they say, killed a lot of men. His eyes narrowed. You willing to kill for a worthless girl who spreads her legs for any man who smiles at her? Warren moved before he consciously decided to, his fist connecting with Marcus's jaw with a satisfying crack. The older man went down hard, blood spurting from his split lip. Warren stood over him, every muscle tense with barely controlled fury. Speak of her like that again, and I will do worse than knock you down. She is worth 10 of you, and you are too blind and stupid to see it. But that is your loss, not hers. He turned to Lily, who was sitting pale-faced on her horse. Go back to the cabin. I will finish here and meet you there. Lily nodded and turned her horse. Marcus struggled to his feet, wiping blood from his mouth. You will regret this, he snarled. Both of you. No one defies me and gets away with it. I just did, Warren said coldly. And if you are smart, you will accept that your daughter is gone and move on with your miserable life. Because if you come after her, if you do anything to harm her, I will not be so merciful next time. He mounted his horse and rode away, leaving Marcus standing in the snow. His hands were shaking slightly from the adrenaline, but he felt clearer than he had in days. It was done. The confrontation he had promised Lily in the snow had happened, and they were free. Back at the cabin, he found Lily pacing anxiously. "Is it over?" she asked. "It is over." Warren pulled her into his arms. "He will not bother you again, I made sure of that." "Did you kill him?" Her voice was small. "No, I hit him, I threatened him, but I did not kill him. As much as he might deserve it, that would only bring trouble down on us both. This way, he knows we are serious, and he knows there are consequences if he pursues this." Warren tilted her chin up to meet his eyes. "You are free, Lily, truly free. The question is, what do you want to do with that freedom?" "I want to stay with you," she said without hesitation. "If you will have me." "Have you?" Warren's laugh was shaky. "Lily, I am half in love with you already and falling more every day. But are you sure? Your father is right about one thing. I am not rich, and life with me will not be easy. Winter up here is harsh, and the gold claim barely pays enough to keep us fed. You could go to Sacramento, make a fresh start somewhere comfortable." "I do not want comfortable," Lily said fiercely. "I want real. I want someone who sees me as an equal, who treats me with respect, who makes me feel alive. That is you, Warren. That is what we have together. And I would rather struggle with you than live easily with anyone else." Warren kissed her then, gentle and deep, and felt something in his chest unlock. When they parted, both were breathless. "Then we will make this work," he said. "Whatever it takes, we will build a life together." The next weeks were a flurry of activity. Warren rode to Coloma and spoke to the circuit preacher, arranging for a wedding. Lily sewed a new dress from fabric Warren bought at the general store, her skilled fingers turning plain blue cotton into something beautiful. They talked late into the nights about their future, making plans and dreaming dreams. On a bright morning in early January 1868, they married in the small church in Coloma. Mrs. Patterson stood as witness, along with a few miners Warren knew from town. Daniel did not attend, which was both expected and painful, but Lily held her head high and spoke her vows with clear conviction. When Warren slipped the simple gold band on her finger, her eyes shone with tears of joy. The early days of their marriage were filled with discovery. They learned each other's habits, their likes and dislikes, their fears and hopes. Warren taught Lily to shoot so she could protect herself when he was away at the claim. Lily taught Warren to read better, patiently working through books by lamplight. They worked together to improve the cabin, adding shelves and a better table, making it truly a home. The physical intimacy of their marriage was a revelation to them both. Lily had feared it after her father's violence and harsh words, but Warren was patient and gentle, showing her that love between a man and woman could be tender and beautiful. Their passion grew as their trust deepened, and they found joy in each other that neither had known was possible. Winter gradually gave way to spring. The snow melted, revealing the greening earth beneath. Wildflowers bloomed in profusion, painting the hillsides with color. Warren worked his claim with renewed energy, and Lily planted a garden behind the cabin, her hands in the rich soil bringing forth beans and squash and tomatoes. One evening in late May, Lily stood at the cabin door watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Warren came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, and she leaned back against him with a contented sigh. "I am pregnant," she said quietly. Warren went very still. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I have suspected for a few weeks, but now I am certain." She turned in his arms to face him. "Are you happy?" "Happy." Warren's face split into the widest smile she had ever seen. "Lily, I am beyond happy. I am terrified and thrilled and grateful all at once." He pressed his hand gently to her still flat stomach. "A baby, our baby. You are not worried about money, about caring for a child up here?" Lily had been anxious about his reaction, unsure how he would take the news. "We will manage," Warren said firmly. "We have managed everything else, and this baby will be born into a home filled with love. That is more than many children have." He kissed her softly. "Thank you. Thank you for choosing me, for building this life with me, for giving me a family." Lily's pregnancy progressed smoothly through the summer. As her belly swelled, Warren became almost comically protective, insisting she not lift anything heavy or work too hard in the garden. She tolerated his fussing with good humor, knowing it came from love. In October, Mrs. Patterson came to stay at the cabin, preparing to help with the birth. When labor began on a crisp autumn afternoon, Warren paced outside like a caged animal, wearing a path in the dirt. Hours later, when he heard the thin wail of a newborn, he burst through the door to find Lily exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in soft cloth. "A son," she said, her voice hoarse but happy. "Warren, we have a son." Warren approached almost reverently, looking down at the red, squalling baby. The infant had a shock of dark hair and tiny fists that waved angrily at the world. "He is perfect," Warren whispered. "Absolutely perfect." They named him Samuel, after Warren's father. Samuel Ingram came into the world with a lusty cry and an apparently insatiable appetite. He kept them up countless nights in those early weeks, but neither parent minded. They would stand together over his cradle, watching him sleep, marveling at what they had created. As Samuel grew from infant to toddler, the cabin rang with his laughter and occasional tears. He was a curious child, always getting into things, exploring every corner of his world. Warren taught him to recognize animal tracks and the names of trees. Lily taught him his letters and numbers, determined that her son would have the education she had fought so hard for. 2 years after Samuel's birth, Lily became pregnant again. This time, a daughter arrived with her mother's hazel eyes and her father's dark hair. They named her Grace, and she was a quieter baby than her brother, content to watch the world with solemn eyes. The years flowed by like water in the creek, bringing both joys and challenges. There were hard winters when food ran low, and Warren had to hunt constantly to keep them fed. There were illnesses that terrified them both, until fevers broke and color returned to small faces. There were triumphs, too, when Warren's claim finally paid out a decent amount of gold, enough to buy proper livestock and improve their home. Marcus Owens kept his distance, as Warren had promised he would. Lily heard through town gossip that he had become even more bitter and isolated after her departure, drinking heavily and letting his farm fall into ruin. She felt pity for him but no desire to reconcile. He had made his choices, and she had made hers. Daniel Fletcher married a girl from Sacramento and seemed happy, or so they heard. The few times they encountered each other in town, the meetings were awkward but civil. Whatever pain there had been had apparently healed with time, and Daniel seemed to bear them no ill will. When Samuel was 6 and Grace 4, Lily became pregnant once more. This pregnancy was harder than the previous 2, leaving her exhausted and ill for months. Warren worried constantly, hovering over her, but she endured with characteristic strength. In the spring of 1875, she gave birth to twin boys, Matthew and James, completing their family in one dramatic stroke. The cabin had to be expanded to accommodate the growing family. Warren, with help from neighbors, added 2 more rooms and a proper loft. The sounds of children filled every corner, and Lily often stood amazed at the abundance of her life. She thought back to that terrible day in the snow, to the broken girl Warren had found, and could scarcely believe how far she had come. One evening in the summer of 1876, after the children were finally asleep, Warren and Lily sat on the porch they had built, watching fireflies dance in the gathering dusk. Lily was 30, Warren 35, and they had been married for 8.5 years. You ever regret it? Warren asked, his arm around her shoulders. Choosing this life, choosing me. Lily looked up at him, her eyes soft with love. Not for a single moment. Not one. You saved my life that day in the snow, Warren, but you did more than that. You gave me a reason to live, a purpose beyond just surviving. You showed me what love really is, what partnership really means, and you gave me our children, our home, our future. She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. I was a broken thing when you found me. You helped me become whole. You were never broken, Warren said gently. Wounded, yes, but never broken. You are the strongest person I know, Lily. Everything we have built here, it is as much you as it is me. More, maybe. Then we are strong together, Lily said. That is what matters. Warren kissed her temple, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair, soap and sunshine and home. I love you. I will never stop being grateful that I found you that day, that you chose me, that you stayed. I love you too, Lily whispered. Always. The years continued their steady march. Samuel grew tall and strong, already showing his father's quiet competence. Grace became an avid reader, devouring every book they could get her. The twins were inseparable, getting into mischief together and endearing themselves to everyone they met. In 1880, when Samuel was 12 and already taller than his mother, Warren and Lily sat him down for a serious conversation. You are old enough now to know the full story of how your mother and I met, Warren said. We have told you some of it, but there is more you should understand. They told him everything, holding nothing back. About Marcus Owens's violence, about the choice Lily had to make between Daniel and Warren, about the confrontation and the promise. Samuel listened gravely, his young face serious. So you were a hero, Father, he said when they finished. You saved Mother and stood up to a bad man. I did what anyone with a conscience should have done, Warren corrected gently. The real heroism was your mother's. She survived, she chose her own path, and she built this family with courage and grace. Never forget that. Samuel looked at his mother with new respect. I am proud to be your son, he said simply. Lily's eyes filled with tears. And I am proud to be your mother. As the children grew older, they began to understand more about the world they lived in and the choices their parents had made. They saw how their parents treated each other with respect and affection, how they worked together as equals, how they faced every challenge as a team. It became the model for what they would seek in their own relationships someday. Grace, at 16, asked her mother how she knew Warren was the right choice. They were sitting together doing mending, the twins playing outside and Samuel at work with his father. I knew because being with him felt like coming home, Lily said, her needle flashing in the lamplight. Not home as it was with my father, which was fear and obligation, but home as it should be, which is safety and acceptance and love. Your father saw me at my worst, broken and beaten, and he treated me with such gentleness. But more than that, he treated me as an equal, as someone whose thoughts and feelings mattered. That was when I knew. But you hurt Daniel to be with Father, Grace pointed out. She was a thoughtful girl, always analyzing the moral dimensions of situations. I did, Lily acknowledged. And I will always regret causing him pain, but I would have hurt him worse by marrying him when I loved someone else. Sometimes there are no choices that do not cause hurt, and you have to pick the one that is most honest, most true to who you are. Grace considered this. I think I understand. When you are older, when you find someone you care for, you will understand even better, Lily said. And I hope you choose someone who sees you the way your father sees me, as a partner, not a possession. In the fall of 1885, Marcus Owens died. Lily heard the news in town and felt a complicated tangle of emotions, relief that he could never threaten her again. sadness for what might have been if he had been a different kind of man, but mostly she felt a sense of closure, of a final chapter ending. "You want to go to the funeral?" Warren asked. Lily shook her head. "No. That man stopped being my father the day he beat me and left me to die. You have been more of a father to our children in their short lives than he ever was to me in 18 years. I have no need to mourn him." Instead, she spent that day with her family, making preserves from the late-season fruit, laughing at the twins' antics, listening to Samuel talk about his plans to apprentice with a carpenter in town. It was a day full of life and love, the perfect antidote to death and bitterness. As they aged, Warren and Lily grew only closer. They developed the easy intimacy of long partnership, able to communicate with a glance, finishing each other's sentences. Their passion remained strong, though tempered now with the comfort of familiarity. They still stole moments alone when they could, still held hands walking through their land, still looked at each other with the wonder of people who could not quite believe their good fortune. Samuel married at 21, bringing home a smart, kind girl named Alina. They built a house on the edge of Warren and Lily's property, close enough to help but far enough to have their own privacy. When Alina had their first child, making Warren and Lily grandparents, it felt like the culmination of everything they had built together. Grace became a teacher, moving to Sacramento to work in a school there. She wrote long letters home, full of stories about her students and her life. She was in no hurry to marry, preferring to establish her independence first, and her parents supported her completely. The twins, Matthew and James, took over Warren's claim when they were old enough, working it together as they had done everything since birth. They were good boys grown into good men, and Warren was proud of what they accomplished. One evening in 1895, Warren and Lily sat together in the same spot where he had found her 28 years before. The cottonwood tree was older now, its branches spreading wide. They came here sometimes, remembering. "You think about that day?" Warren asked. "When I found you here?" "Sometimes," Lily said. "It feels like a dream now, or like it happened to someone else. I was so young, so scared, so convinced my life was over." She looked up at him, her hair now streaked with gray but her eyes still bright. "I could never have imagined all of this. Our children, our grandchildren, the life we have built. It seems impossible that such happiness could come from such pain." "Pain can teach us to appreciate joy," Warren said. "And adversity can show us what we are made of. You have always been made of steel, Lily. I just helped you remember that." "We helped each other," she corrected. "You were lonely before me, adrift. We gave each other purpose, family, love. We saved each other." Warren could not argue with that. He pulled her close, and they sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky the same colors it had been that first day. The world turned, seasons changed, but this remained constant. Their love, their partnership, their commitment to each other and the family they had created. Years continued to pass. They celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, welcomed more grandchildren, weathered losses and celebrated triumphs. Warren's hair turned completely gray, and his joints ached on cold mornings, but he still rose each day grateful for another sunrise with Lily beside him. Lily's hands grew gnarled with arthritis, but they still reached for Warren's whenever he was near. On their 30th anniversary in 1898, their children and grandchildren gathered for a celebration. The house rang with laughter and conversation, with the sounds of family. Samuel made a toast, raising his glass high. "To my parents," he said, "who showed all of us what real love looks like, what courage looks like, what partnership looks like. You have given us the greatest gift parents can give, which is the example of how to live a good life, how to face hardship with strength, how to choose love even when it is difficult. We are all better people because of you." Everyone cheered and drank, and Warren looked at Lily with eyes full of emotion. She smiled at him, that same smile that had captivated him all those years ago, and he knew he was the luckiest man alive. As they entered the new century, Warren and Lily slowed down but never stopped. They still tended their garden together, still took walks through their land, still sat on the porch in the evenings watching the world turn. They had become fixtures in Coloma, respected elders whose story was whispered about with admiration. The woman who chose love over duty, people said. The man who promised justice and delivered it. Their story had become legend, embellished perhaps in the retelling but rooted in truth. In the spring of 1905, Warren fell ill. It started as a cough that would not go away, progressing to fever and weakness. Lily nursed him with the same devotion he had shown her so many years before, never leaving his side. Their children took turns staying at the house, helping care for their father. On a warm May evening, Warren opened his eyes to find Lily sitting beside his bed, her hand in his. "Hello, my love," he said, his voice weak. "Hello," she replied, smiling through her tears. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," he admitted. "So tired, but content. I have had a good life, Lily, the best life, because of you, because of us," she corrected, as she always did. "We built this together." "I am not afraid," Warren said. "I am only sorry to leave you." "You will never leave me," Lily said fiercely. "You will be in my heart every moment until we meet again, and you will live on in our children and grandchildren, in everything we built together. Death cannot take that away." Warren smiled. "I love you. I have loved you from the moment I saw you in the snow, and I will love you beyond death. You are my heart, Lily, my home. And you are mine," she whispered, leaning close, "always and forever." Warren closed his eyes and his breathing gradually slowed. Lily held his hand, talking softly to him about their life together, their memories, their love. As dawn broke over the mountains, he took one last breath and was gone. The grief was profound, but Lily bore it as she had borne everything else in her life, with courage and grace. She took comfort in her children and grandchildren, in the community Warren had been part of, in the knowledge that they had loved each other completely and built something lasting. She lived another 12 years, watching her family continue to grow and thrive. She told their story to anyone who would listen, making sure the grandchildren and great-grandchildren knew about the man Warren had been, about the love they had shared. On a cold December day in 1917, almost exactly 50 years after Warren had found her in the snow, Lily Ingram passed away peacefully in her sleep. She was 70 years old, surrounded by the family she and Warren had created. They buried her beside Warren, under the spreading branches of an oak tree they had planted together decades before. On the stone, they placed a simple inscription that Samuel had composed: "Warren and Lily Ingram, two souls who found each other in darkness and chose to walk into the light together." Their love was their legacy. The family continued in Coloma for generations, carrying forward the values Warren and Lily had embodied. The story of how they met, how they fell in love, how they built a life against all odds, was passed down like a treasured heirloom. It became a reminder that love can bloom even from the darkest circumstances, that courage can overcome fear, and that choosing your own path, no matter how difficult, is always worth it in the end. The cabin where Warren had brought Lily, that snowy day stood for many years, eventually becoming a small museum of sorts, preserving the story of the couple who had lived there. Visitors would walk through the rooms, imagining the life that had unfolded within those walls, the love that had sustained a family through trials and triumphs. And on winter days when snow fell softly on the California foothills, People would sometimes stand beneath the old cottonwood tree and remember the young woman who had been left to die there, the cowboy who had saved her, the promise he had made and kept. Remember that from violence and despair, beauty and joy had somehow grown. Remember that love, real love, was worth fighting for, worth choosing, worth building a life around. Warren and Lily's story became more than just their own. It became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the transformative power of love, to the possibility of redemption and new beginnings. It reminded everyone who heard it that we all have choices, even in our darkest moments, and that those choices matter more than we can possibly know. Their great-grandchildren would grow old themselves, still telling the story, still marveling at it. How a man had found a broken woman in the snow and said, "He'll answer to me for this now." How he had made good on that promise. How she had chosen him, chosen courage, chosen love. How together they had built something beautiful that lasted far beyond their own lives. And in that, perhaps, lay the truest measure of any life. Not in wealth or fame or comfort, but in love given and received, in courage displayed, in families raised with devotion, in partnerships forged through adversity and strengthened through commitment. Warren and Lily had achieved all of that and more. Their story was complete, their ending happy, their legacy secure in the hearts of everyone they had touched.